I always ask you, you have not ruled it off and taken it off the table. Is a third-party run still in the realm of possibilities?
Shannon, No Labels has been moving and pushing very hard of the centrist middle, making common sense decisions.
Conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin would not rule out a possible presidential run in 2024 as a third-party candidate. And behind the scenes, a group that we have talked about on the show before, known as No Labels, has been eyeing Manchin as their possible choice for a so-called centrist candidate to run against Biden and Trump. Now, we'll remind you of exactly who funds the organization No Labels, what their real agenda is, but first, here's a little more from Joe Manchin's evasive, chaotic, and awful answer.
No Labels has been moving and pushing very hard of the centrist middle, making common sense decisions. People that basically expect us to do our job and not put the political party ahead of the policy in our great country. That's what we've seen happening, and there's more noise and more extremism coming from the far left and far right. They've been pushing this middle. If the middle has pushed what we just saw happen, that was the middle pushing. So that's basically a movement where No Labels has been proposing for a long time, 10, 11, 12 years.
It sounds a lot like what Joe Manchin
basically
says,
has
too.
the voice. It's always what I believed. I believe that basically that's where you make the decisions. You listen to the left and the right. You make sure you leave nobody behind, and you listen to the different persuasions that they might have and concerns. But when it comes, you've got to make common sense.
I love that he's pretending like he has any concern for what the left has to say about policy-related issues. Because the fact of the matter is, No Labels is a pro-corporate organization that is essentially threatening Joe Biden with a potential third-party ticket in order to get him to bow his head because they don't think that he's been pro-corporate enough. That is what's really going on here. Now, Harlan Crow, the guy who's been giving all sorts of lavish gifts to Supreme Court Justice Thomas Clarence, is one of the big backers and funders for No Labels. And this next video will also shed some light on the other individuals who are funding this effort.
Coca-Cola, General Electric, pharma giant Johnson & Johnson, and oil and gas company Pioneer Natural Resources have all made 5-figure donations to No Labels over the years. So has the Consumer Technology Association, whose members as of 2020 included Amazon, AT&T, Google, Humana, Nvidia, Verizon, Walmart, and others. Private equity firms, you know, the people gutting hospitals, nursing homes, and driving up your rent, love Kyrsten Sinema, and it turns out they're big fans of No Labels too. Puck News recently revealed that Steven Schwartzman, the billionaire CEO of private equity giant Blackstone, is a major donor to the group.
So Cenk, I mean, I've heard from many people that money in politics doesn't make any difference at all. That these kinds of organizations don't really have any sway over the decisions that politicians make. In this case, it would be Joe Biden. What do you think?
Yeah, well, of course, that's a joke. So look, right after they voted against minimum wage, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin went and picked up checks from the National Restaurant Association, the top group lobbying against a higher minimum wage. They're rubbing it in our face. Joe Manchin has gotten millions of dollars from fossil fuel companies. He has his own fossil fuel company. He makes money through the campaign contributions and the power associated with that fame, et cetera. He makes money directly. Everything is about corruption. And so as usual, the folks that I'm most mad at are the media. Why? Because Manchin is an extremist in supporting corporate positions that are deeply unpopular with the American people. That's not my opinion, it's the facts based on the polling of Americans. Take Manchin's positions and you look at where it stands in the polling, and it is a disaster. Almost no one agrees with him. And what does all of mainstream media call him all the time? What's the #1 word? Moderate. Well, how could it be moderate if he's representing an extreme position? Because in the Washington world, corporate media world, since they're all owned by corporations and serve corporations, they do this amazing, and you gotta hand it to them, brilliant trick of just co-opting, kidnapping the word moderate. There's actually nothing wrong with being a moderate overall. I'm a progressive, and you've seen me fight quote unquote moderates my whole life, my whole career. Because I'm not fighting actual moderates. Actual moderates care about balancing of interests on policy positions and are generally at the center of the country. That's not a bad thing in a democracy. But what Washington calls a moderate is a corporate extremist who gives away the store. So now let's talk real quick about no label strategy. There's only 3 possibilities here. One is they live in an alternate reality and they think Joe Manchin might be able to pull it off, and then they got perfect corporate rule. He will do everything that they ask for. He's 100% owned by these donors, okay? And they might think, hey, Biden's so weak, Trump is so weak, maybe he could do it. Now, I've seen the polling, there's a 0% chance, but everybody's got brain rot and everybody lives in their own alternate reality, okay? But a second possibility, the most logical one, the one that Anna pointed out, they're just trying to pressure Biden, which doesn't take much. Biden just needs an excuse because he largely agrees with them to give them more things before he loses, and they all know he's gonna lose, okay? And the third thing is, well, just in case he's not gonna lose, there's an insurance policy to make sure Trump wins. Because if you're on a third party, guys, MAGA is not going to all of a sudden go, oh, maybe I should vote for a Democrat like Joe Manchin.
No way.
There's a 0%, he'll pick up 0 MAGA votes. And 93% of Republicans voted for Trump in 2020. They're all MAGA, okay? So he's not gonna pick up a single Republican vote. It's gonna take just votes away from MSNBC viewers who are like, yeah, moderate Democrats are the greatest. Corporate rule is awesome. So it's like, look, I get mad at Cornel West for running, he announced today is in this terrible so-called party that was run by terrible people. And he's gonna take away votes from the Democratic, he's not gonna take a single vote from a Republican. Every third party guy, including Joe Manchin, every one of them knows they're not gonna take a single vote from Trump, okay? So this is all an effort to make sure Trump gets elected.
That's exactly right. Now, I want to show you a vomitous video. I had covered this about a week ago, 2 weeks ago maybe, and it features 2 of the prominent individuals who are running this No Labels organization, Joe Lieberman and Pat McCrory. And they were asked, like, what's the plan here? What are you guys really trying to do? Get a load of this.
I think that part of what we've done is because we've actually begun to do this, and the 2 parties, particularly the Democratic Party, seems most anxious, nervous about what we're doing because we're challenging the political status quo.
Listen, I know the game. I've played the game. I've been a part of the game. I've been played by the game. And the fact of the matter is the game wants to keep the status quo. They want to keep the power, regardless of the pragmatic circumstances on the ground. And we're challenging the status quo, and maybe by even challenging the status quo between now and Super Tuesday, we can have an impact on the 2 parties.
Don't you just love it when corporatists co-opt anti-corporatist rhetoric and use it for their own purposes?
No, I mean, they're textbook.
It's amazing.
They're textbook. There was a hilarious video. In my lifetime, there's no one who's wanted to protect the status quo more than Joe Lieberman and Joe Manchin. So they, like, one of them is named Status, the other one is named Quo. Okay, now these jokers, understanding that the country hates the establishment and hates the status quo, come in with, like this guy, we're against status quo, we're against it. Are you, you freaking joker? Okay, one of the most corrupt men ever to be in politics. So the idea that these guys are an anti-establishment group just trying to find the middle of the country, or maybe the middle of the donors. The donors are beloved donors. Shut up and go do whatever you're gonna do to private equity owners. Go pleasure them in private. You're disgusting.
You don't have to tell them to go do that. They're doing that as we speak. So let's get to where the hearts and minds of American voters actually lie, because they would have you believe that Biden and the Democrats aren't pro-corporate enough. Except let's take a look at healthcare. In 2022, or a 2022 AP poll, Associated Press, reveals that public satisfaction with the US healthcare system is remarkably low, with fewer than half of Americans saying it is generally handled well. Only 12% say it's handled extremely or very well. But about 2/3 of adults think it is the federal government's responsibility to make sure all Americans have healthcare coverage, with adults ages 18 to 49 more likely than those over 50 to hold that view. The percentage of people who believe healthcare coverage is a government responsibility has actually risen in recent years, ticking up from 57% in 2019 to 62% in 2017.
Okay, I gotta jump in there. So if every poll shows you the same exact thing, progressive positions poll at 2/3 of the country. That's chapter 1 of my book, Justice is Coming. There's dozens of polls in there, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about the book. You don't have to worry about anything. Just look at polls when they come out on policy issues going forward, and you will see that same 2/3 number comes up every time on almost every issue. Yet, there's no one in Washington that represents that 2/3.
Right.
Trump was against universal healthcare. Joe Biden is against universal healthcare. No Labels is against universal healthcare. Everyone is against universal healthcare in Washington, even though 2/3 of Americans want it. Where the F are the moderates?
Let's get to taxing the rich. So a New York Times poll conducted in November of 2020 found that about two-thirds of respondents supported higher taxes on those making $400,000 or more per year.
2/3.
A Politico/Morning Consult poll released in February of 2019 showed that 3/4 of voters said that the wealthiest Americans should pay more in taxes.
76% to be exact. And that's not, hey, you shouldn't cut their taxes. That's, no, you should increase their taxes. And that's, sorry, that's not 2/3, that's 3/4. Have you heard a single person on cable news say, oh yeah, do American people want taxes increased? I've never seen it in my lifetime. Other than me when I was on cable news.
One more poll to get to, because I just like to give you guys a variety of sources to show the receipts. So about 6 in 10 adults now say that the feeling that some corporations don't pay their fair share, 61%, bothers them a lot, while a nearly identical share say this about some wealthy people not paying their fair share, 60%, according to a 2023 Pew Research Center survey. But we should listen to Joe Manchin, who argues that the country absolutely loves the tax cuts for the rich, for people like himself, and that we don't want them to pay their fair share. That's where the country is, according to Joe Manchin and No Labels and all of the billionaire funders, millionaire funders who back the organization.
And last thing is that just one of their funders, Steven Schwartzman, that they mentioned there, that runs a private equity group, one of the richest men in the world, multi-billionaire. Do you think he might care about the tax cuts?
No, come on.
The tax cuts literally save him not millions, billions of dollars.
I'm sure that doesn't make a difference.
No, but out of the goodness of his heart, because he cares about the average American,
right.
The moderate American. That's why he's backing Joe Manchin, who says that even though 3/4 want tax increases on Steve Schwartzman, we should do tax cuts for Steve Schwartzman because he's the moderate. He's the moderate. So this is why people are disgusted with every institution in America. This is why they have lost faith in the media and the politicians. And we have the two most unpopular people almost in American history, political history, Joe Biden and Donald Trump running for president, and everyone saying, you have no choice. And when you say, oh, can I have a choice? They go, Joe Manchin, which is the only person arguably worse than those two. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.